Welcome all. Once again, we are now streaming live on YouTube. So very happy to see KK also here. We are happy to be part of the celebrations of Mendel's second centenary done by KSSP and their magazine Luca. We are the Joy of Learning Foundation, bringing Mendel to you from our side in a very simple manner so that children can follow. And we will be using a couple of activities. This session is being supported by the Indian Oil Corporation Limited. The two primary resource people here would be, for this session, would be Dr. Swapna Khare. I was talking about her. She's a senior microbiologist who did her doctoral research from IISc Bangalore, then went abroad to do postdoctorate, came back to India, did some research. And today she is very passionate about how to bring science to school children and teachers so that it's enriching, exciting, and interesting. So she's going to be a primary resource person today, supported by Apurva Bhatia, who's also she's an ex-engineer, but now her primary passion is actually science and math teaching with school children and teachers. I'm Anshumala Gupta. We are all part of the Joy of Learning team. And this session has also had lots of work by Assis Mansingh, who is also present right now with us and with the rest of our team. So Swapna ma'am, I think you can start.
Okay.
Yeah, over to you.
Swapna, before we start, just one request. If everyone in the audience, if you can let us know, just type in the chat box and let us know if you're a teacher or or a student, or just here to know more about Mendel. That will actually help us. We'll know what audience we have today. Swapna, you can start.
Okay. So let's start, everyone. Good morning again. So this session is possible with Indian Oil Corporation Limited's help. And so let's start. This is actually a 200th birthday this year, 20th July for Mendel. So I think you are going to have a week-long celebration on Mendel. So we are bringing a couple of sessions for you to appreciate the work of Gregor Mendel. So let's start. Now, all of us have seen families, all have seen different living organisms. So the first question we always think about is, what do the parents give their offspring? So normal answer would be that everyone, please stop annotating.
Swapna, you can stop annotation by others. Try.
So we've all been noticing all different kinds of plants and animals all our life. So we generally, what do we see? We see that newer generations are similar to the parents. But sometimes, like these cute puppies here, we also see that it's not, offsprings are not really identical to their parents every time. So we do see a lot of variation. Here is, in case of humans, we see siblings. So these are two sets of siblings. And you can really see that they are not really alike. So you see difference, but you can definitely make out that they are siblings. So there is a lot of commonality, there is a lot of similarity, and there is also a lot of variations. So human beings have actually always wondered about what this is. Next picture here shows you similarity between mother and her son. So we notice similarities, we also see differences, and we've always wondered why this is or what is causing this. Now, although we didn't understand really the reason behind this, we've always been trying to breed plants and animals, trying to raise different plants and animals which are more suited to our purpose. So, but when we've been doing this, we really didn't have any clear understanding. So it was more of a dabbling kind of a thing. So the problems that people have faced over thousands of years is they could never really get consistent results. As you can see in the dog breeds that we see, that there were totally different patterns, there were totally different characters which were not there even in the case of parents. Or sometimes the character that you wanted simply disappeared or got modified. So basically this was just trial and error process, and we could never really get any clear process, any clear result that we wanted. Now different people over the centuries have tried to figure out why this was so. And but actually if you look at Aristotle, from there on, even in Indian philosophy, we have a lot of answers to these questions, but we never could get a real understanding of this. And now, although now we really understand this process in detail, but if we actually look back, the first clear insight human beings got into this similarity between parents and offspring was something somebody did right 200 years ago. So this is what the person we are going to talk about today. This is a person called Gregor Mendel, and this is his 200th birthday on 20th July 2022. So he is not really the first person who studied this, but he is the first person who really got a clear insight into how different characters are inherited or not inherited. Now, where did it all start? He was born in a very, very small town, what is today Czechoslovakia. So this is again a European scientist. And actually, if you look at this, he was a very versatile person. He had training in physics and maths. So he was a physicist and mathematician by training, but dabbled in as a biologist most of his life. And he was also a man of faith. He was a priest, and he was also a teacher. So he has contributed in several different aspects. So he actually did a lot of work, and first 10 years of his work he published in an Austrian journal, and this paper is called as Experiments in Plant Hybridization. This was published in 1865, and this is what really founded science of inheritance, or genetics as we call it today. So this work, which we will talk about a little bit today, is a decade-long work, his experiments with peas. And what stood his experiments from everybody else's work is he really had a very clear mathematical and statistical approach to his work. That's why he succeeded where no one else did. But sadly, as would happen in case of other scientists also, he was far ahead of his time. So when he published his work in 1865, hardly anybody read it or understood his work. So his work really went unnoticed for almost 30 years. And 30 years after his death, actually few scientists got similar results. And when they looked back, they actually found that there was an older paper by Gregor Mendel, which had exactly similar findings. And those three scientists, Correns, De Vries, and Schmack, these three scientists actually gave credit back to Mendel. That is why we really know Mendel's work now. If they would not have done that, probably we would have all also forgotten what Gregor Mendel's contribution was. So also thanks to those three scientists who ethically gave credit back to Gregor Mendel. So he has got his credit even later, but he got his credit, and he's considered as founder or father of genetics. So this is where he lived and worked most of his life. So this was also his laboratory. This was also his church. So this is where this is the abbey in Saint Thomas in Brno. So this is where he worked. So on the right side, you can see this is his garden. This is where he worked mostly. And he was an extremely good priest and teacher also. So what did he do in his garden? So he was an avid gardener. So over 8 years, he grew thousands and thousands of pea plants to understand how characters are passed from parent to offspring. But did he start with peas? No, he really did not start with peas. He actually started studying honeybees and even mice. But then he had to abandon that, and as a gardener, he focused his attention on peas. Now, why peas? He understood properties of peas very well, which really helped him in his work. So let's first understand why he worked on peas. Now, the primary answer lies in the structure of the pea flower. This is how the pea flower looks like. You can see, those of you who are from botany field, They can guess the family, they will understand the uniqueness of structure. But the uniqueness that we are interested in today is that pea flower is naturally designed for self-pollination, which means that the flower generally remains unopened even though the stamens and the stigma ovary has matured. So what happens is pollens within the same flower will be fertilizing. So the flower is self-pollinated. Now, why this is so? This is so that the plants remain constant. Offspring always resembles parent. So this is the primary property that pea flowers are naturally self-pollinated. But this doesn't take you very far. Pea is, as I say here, is one of the rarer species which prefers self-pollination over cross-pollination. But if you want to study different characters, you should be able to do cross-pollination. So pea flower, although it is made for self-pollination, can also easily be cross-pollinated. So this is the first primary feature. Second, he was living in a much colder climate. So he would prefer a plant which has a short life cycle. So pea plant, as shown here, right from seed to forming pea pods, this happens in a single season. So he was able to grow pea plants very, very fast. So this is a much faster growing plant. This was second reason. And very, very important reason was that pea plant shows many features which have only two variations. Okay, so there are almost a dozen features in peas, but he chose 7 of these features which allowed him to study transmission of characters. Now, which are these 7 features? Now, the 7 features that he chose had only 2 variations or 2 differences. So we show you these 7 features in images. So the first one is it can have either purple flowers or white flowers. No other colored flowers are seen. Then second is the height of the plant. You can see the pea plants are either very tall or very short. There is nothing in between. Then he chose plants which have axial flowers, so that is they flower on the branches, or terminal flowers that they form flowers only at the apical region. Then the next feature that he studied was peas can either have round seeds or it can have wrinkled seeds. The next was the color of the seeds. It had either yellow colored peas or green colored peas. Next one is the color of the seed pod. So we are more used to seeing the ones on the left hand. So that is the green seed pods versus yellow seed pods. And then you have also the shape of the seed pod. So you could either have inflated seed pod. This is what normally we see. And then there is a flattened seed pods. These are seen more in Western countries. They are also used directly for cooking. So these are the 7 features he studied. Now, as we go along, we'll pick up some of the genetics terminology here. So these features which are passed from parent to offspring across the generations are called as characters. So we will be calling these features from now on as characters. So these are the 7 characters chosen by Mendel. Let's have a quick recap. Plant height, flower color, flower position, seed shape, seed color, pod and pod shape. So now the character that he chose occurs only in 2 variations. So this is what he calls as a trait. Trait is what is the effect or what is the form in which you see the character. For example, character that we chose, if it is a height of the plant, we see only 2 different traits. One is the plant can either be tall or it can be short. So tall or short is going to be considered as trait, and height of the plant will be considered as a character. So what Mendel has chosen is 7 characters and 2 traits for each character. So how did he start? So this is a 10-year-long work in which he did something unique than any other person in his time. That is, first he created or isolated true breeding or pure breeding pea plants. What was he looking for? He was looking for pea plants which had distinct traits. That is, will either be only tall or only short. Okay, so he basically isolated true breeding pea plants for 7 different characters, 2 traits for each character. So totally he isolated 14 varieties. So let's see what is true breeding. True breeding simply means that the seeds that he collected for tall plants, when he would plant them, here we are seeing purple flower one. So let's talk about purple. So if he has seeds for purple colored flowering plants, what he sees is whenever he plants these seeds and gets the plant, they will only have purple flower. So they were pure for character purple flower. And he did that for few generations, made sure that the seeds that he collected as purple flowered seeds would always have only purple flowered seeds. There was no contamination of white flowered seeds. So this is what he did for the first 2 years. So he had in total 14 different varieties of pea plants on his hand, each one with one character, that is one trait that is different. So this is what he did for first 2 years. He collected seeds for 14 different varieties. Each one of them had a distinct trait. So what do we mean by purity again? We mean that tall plants gave rise to tall children, these tall children gave rise to tall grandchildren, and so on and so forth. So this character there was no variation or impureness in this character. So now he has his starting material, and now he would begin his actual work. So what was his actual work? Actual work was now to mix and match, to cross them basically in scientific terms, and see what happens to the characters when he brings 2 different traits together. Okay, so he will go character wise. So he will choose the first character and try to cross, and so on and so forth. So let's first understand what is crossing. So what is crossing? Crossing, crossbreeding, different terms for the same purpose, that is creating a hybrid plant from 2 contrasting varieties using cross-pollination. Now we know naturally that a single pea plant would prefer self-pollination, but since we want to make a hybrid, what we want is we want pollens from one plant, that is with one trait, for example here white flowers, to be used for cross-pollination in a different variety, that is purple flowered plant. So we want to create hybrid between white flowered and purple flowered plant. So cross-pollination, how this cross-pollination is done? Now you need to do something special because this plant is designed for self-pollination. So the first thing is, when you take, let's see, this is a purple flower we have taken for cross-pollination. So first what we need to do is avoid self-pollination. How do we do that? We simply do that by removing the stamens before they mature, that is before they can release their pollens. So there are no mature pollens available in this flower to self-pollinate. So self-pollination is prevented. Then we do step 2. So now this is our parent 1, who will contribute the ovary or the female gametes. And now we come with the parent 2, which will provide the pollens or the male gamete. Okay. Now how do we cross-pollinate? Simply we go to the flower of parent 2, that is, and then simply use a brush, painting brush, to collect pollens from this flower and simply come back and dust these pollens on the stigma of the first parent. Okay. So this is how cross-pollination is done. So pollens from a different variety are introduced to the stigma of another parent, and then this actually fertilization will happen here and the pea seeds will be formed, and then you can get the offspring. So these are the parents and this is the offspring. So let's start with this first cross. The first cross.
Sapna ma'am?
Yeah.
Sorry, just a moment. I think maybe this is a good spot to take a very small pause, and we can ask everyone if they're following.
So everyone.
Use it.
Any doubts or any problems so far?
If there are children here, they are encouraged to please ask. If children or teachers, anybody can ask and say, well, maybe there was one slide which wasn't clear, or maybe we should go back and or repeat that particular thing, or anything else. If you have a comment, doubt, or anything, or a question, please feel free to write on the chat box or ask us. We will unmute you. You can ask by speaking as well.
Any terms that are not clear, selfing, crossing, pure breeding, because we've actually introduced a lot in a very short span of time. So those who are new to these terms, you're free to ask questions.
Or if you are clear, then you can say, I mean, should we go ahead? Then you say yes. I mean, if you think that you are fine, so just say yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we've received many responses that tell us that it's clear so far. So I think Swapna ma'am, you can continue.
Okay. So let's start with the first cross. So the first cross, the parents were, parent one was purple flower pea plant and the second parent was white flower pea plant. So as we discussed, the pollens from one variety were transferred to the ovule or the stigma of the second flower, and the seeds were set for the feature in the offspring. Now, what we have done is crossed purple flowers with white flowers. So what would you expect? Actually, if you look at Mendel's time, the theory was called as a blending. That is, both parents contribute some kind of fluids which are blended together, just like blending of colors. So all the characters that are transmitted at that time were thought to get mixed. So the natural expectation there was that he would get pale purple flowers or light purple flowers, mixing of purple and white. So surprise, he got a really big surprise because all the new plants, that is, he did the cross, got the seeds and planted them. And the plants that he got, these are the hybrid plants. This is the first generation hybrid. So all these first generation hybrid plants, all of them had purple flowers. Not a single plant he got which had the white flowers. So this was really a big surprise. It went really against everything that was known at that time. And the reason it is called as F is because of first filial. Filial means son in Greek. So that is where the word comes from. So this is the first generation of hybrid plants, and all retained only one character, that is purple flower. White color flower character was lost. So he thought maybe this is something very specific to the flower trait. So what he did another cross where he took tall plants and short plants and did cross pollination. And when he looked at the result, what was he expecting? Just like the first cross, what he expected medium heighted plants. Okay, so you cross tall versus short. Looking at the blending theory that was understood that time, you would expect a medium height children. But surprise again, all the new plants he got, all of them were tall. So again, in this case, first generation hybrid plants lost one character and showed only one trait. One trait was lost and one was seen. So he thought, is it really a general phenomena? So what he did, he crossed all other characters also. So this is axial versus terminal flowers, green versus yellow seeds, then flat green versus yellow seed pods, and inflated versus constricted. So all combinations he tried, and every time he got the same result, that in case of hybrids, all plants have features only from a single parent and one parent's trait was lost. So it was really a head scratching moment for him. And this is, we just show you in picture what was. So in case of axial versus terminal, he only saw axial flowering. In case of green and yellow seeds, he only saw yellow seeds. In case of inflated versus constricted seed pod, he only saw inflated seed pod. And in case of green versus yellow, he only got plants with green seed pods. So every cross that he did in contrasting characters, in case of first hybrid, he only saw one character, did not see the second. So this is just another snapshot of the number of crosses he did. So he did 7 different crosses for each character and got the same result. So the question was,
can we wait and ask for questions or doubts about the process?
So did you understand? Everybody understand the crossing?
Yes.
This is also called as a monohybrid cross in genetics term, because mono for single, so only one character is being crossed. So also known as monohybrid crosses.
You can continue.
Okay. So far what we saw, that when Mendel did his crosses of 2 plants differing in one trait, what he saw, that every time he did this cross, all the new plants, all the first generation hybrid plants showed only one trait. So what happened to the opposite trait? Now, if you go back to 19th century and actually look at the available literature, there was only one phenomena known, that was blending phenomena. So we also refer to as bloodlines. So in case of animals, it was thought that blood was being blended and characters being transformed. So the only way this could be explained is that somehow when 2 different traits come together, one trait is either destroying the other trait, or one trait is actually diluting the second trait, or maybe one trait is simply masking the other trait. So these were the different possibilities. So Mendel wanted to go ahead and actually find out what is really happening here. So why one trait is disappearing? So is it really there, or is it gone completely? So he wanted to see whether the missing trait is there just hiding in the plant, or it is totally gone. So what he did, that he took his first generation hybrids and allowed them to self pollinate, and then he will try to look at the second generation to see whether this disappeared trait can reappear or not. So again, he did the same set of experiments for each of the 7 characteristics. Okay, so let's start with the first cross. So what he did is, what he had hybrid of tall and short. So this is the hybrid that he's starting with, and he's simply allowing to self-pollinate. So pollens and stigma will be from the same plant. So, and when the fertilization happens and the seeds develop, he is going to plant those seeds and look at the character, look at the height of the plant. So what do you think happened here? Please answer on the chat, that when he allowed this hybrid plant to self-pollinate and got the progeny or offspring, what kind of plants would he get? So these we would call second generation offspring of the first generation. Please don't give me mathematical answers. Please just tell me whether the plants will be tall or short. Okay, Satish is saying tall and dwarfs. Others? It may be dwarf, tall and dwarf, 3 tall and 1 dwarf, 50-50. Interesting. Yes, please. More answers. I'm looking for everyone's opinion. All tall, tall and dwarf, tall and dwarf. How many of you are genetics teacher, biology teachers? The short will appear, Sindhu is saying. So this was what was expected, because the thinking at that time was one trait must have destroyed or diluted away the opposite strain. But as some of you rightly guessed, this was not the outcome. So when he allowed hybrid F1 to self-pollinate and give rise to the next generation, the plants were not all tall, but he got a mix. So the disappeared character, that was the short plants, actually reappeared. So this is just a pictorial view we are trying to give you of what he would have seen in his field. So short plants are indicated by an orange square and tall plants are indicated by a blue square. So if he would have walked into his field to see the result, this is what he would have seen. He would have seen a mixture of both. So again, he was surprised once again, and the mathematician that he was, he kept great record. So he actually counted all the seeds. He counted how many plants were tall, how many were short. And when he counted, he realized that, as some of you have written, that he got 3:1 ratio. 3 for the character that was seen in the hybrid. That is, 3 plants were tall to 1 plant. So the ratio is 3 tall to 1 short. So this is the ratio he got in case of tall and short hybrids. So now again, he wanted to repeat the same experiment with all the other characters. And in every case, he got similar results. That is, he got the same ratio, 3:1 ratio. So the trait that disappeared in the first generation of hybrid came back only in 1/4 of the second generation of offspring. So he realized that this really means something. So this is actually a snapshot of his actual data that we have recovered. So if you look at it, these are the 7 characters. These are the 14 traits. And you can see that he has really counted the seeds to show us and to get the ratio. So for flower color, he got 705 purple color to 224 white color plants, giving you roughly the ratio of 3:1. And you see exactly the same trend in all the 7 different characters. So he really knew that he was onto something, and he was seeing a phenomena, and now he needed to get an explanation for it.
Swapna ma'am, there is a question on the chat that says, is this ratio constant?
Yes, as you can see here, that it's nearly 3:1. So we know that this is the ratio, that 3:1 is an average, but this is always seen in these kind of crosses, whether you do it in plants or animals. Simple genes will always give you this ratio when you are crossing them for single trait. Okay, there are special cases where this ratio is not got, but maybe we will talk about them tomorrow. But in normal cases, you will always get 3:1 ratio. So we are talking about looking at the appearance of the plant. Okay, so shall we go ahead?
If there are any questions at this point, please ask them on the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask.
So now actually we want to do an activity. So this is an hands-on activity to get a feel of what it virtually trying to do across. So
okay, Sapna ma'am, some
Ah.
questions are coming up, so I
Okay.
think we can go back to the previous slide once more. and address those questions. So the first question is, what about other traits?
Other traits in the sense, Mahesh, other traits in the sense, what he checked is these 14 traits, right? So these two are traits and this is a character. So as far as Mendel is concerned, he only checked for these 14 traits in case of peas. And he would get, you would get the same result for most of the traits. Okay, there are some special cases which we will talk about maybe tomorrow. Okay, so I wouldn't want to get into exceptions now. First, let's understand the overall process and then we can always talk about exceptions. Then Sheena is asking what will be the result if you did the cross the reverse way. So yes, he actually did that also. So he was really did a lot of detailed analysis. So we are only showing you one version. That is, he took, let's say, pollens of white flower and crossed it to stigma of purple flower. He also did the reverse cross. That is, pollens came from purple flower and went on to the stigma of white flower. This is called as a reciprocal cross in case of genetics. So for each of these combinations, he did that. So he changed the male and female parent and he got identical result. So all these 7 characters that we are talking about, so their transmission or inheritance is not linked to the whether it is going with the female gamete or the male gamete. So it was not sex dependent. He addressed that issue. So the result would remain the same even if he changes the male and female parent. Any other question? Okay. No problem. So I think we'll go ahead and do the activity. This will be a great hands-on activity for all of you teachers to even conduct in your class. I think students will be able to get a better absorb the knowledge much better if they handle concrete objects, because this is kind of becomes an abstract or difficult to understand. So I request Apurva to start the activity. I think most of you would have got the materials. So let's do the activity.
I actually wanted to know from everyone if you have matchsticks with you right now, because I'm not sure how many of you actually got that message. And if in case you do not have matchsticks, what you can do is you can take a minute and get them. They're easily available if you're at your houses. So, and if you have them, please also type in the chat that you do have them. How many of you have matchsticks right now with you? Okay. So 2 people are saying they have.
Otherwise, I think maybe they can use pen and caps.
They can also use pen and caps. Okay. All right. Those of you who have matchsticks and are going to do this activity with us, it will also help if you can switch on your cameras for a little while and point them at a piece of paper. So you can take an A4 size sheet or even your notebook, any page, and if you can point your cameras there. So we'll also...
You can stop sharing because we can see Apurva's face there.
No, actually, we need the screen. We need the screen for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. I think we can start now. So, Swapna ma'am, what do you suggest? Should I do it here or do you want to use the slides to show this?
You decide. Maybe we can show the first image, and then we can you can show further, so they get an idea.
Okay, okay. Okay. So what we want you to do now is, so now I'll need to annotate. Can you allow me to
Okay.
annotate?
Okay. Now you can. Let's see.
No, so I'm covering it.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Ha,
Okay.
ha, ha.
Sorry.
No, go back on the next slide. Yes. Okay. This keeps on disappearing from me somehow. All right. So what you all need to do is take a matchstick, and one single matchstick. It is going to represent one tall plant. So what we are going to do right now is we are going back to the beginning. Before Mendel even started experimenting. So you remember the first 2 years we were talking about of this entire experiment, when he was actually preparing the raw material or the ingredients that he will use to do crossing. So we are going to start with the example of one tall plant right now. So we have this one tall plant, and so you can place your matchstick on the paper. And after that, what he did with this tall plant, you can make a box using a pen. You can make a box and divide it in two halves. Okay, so one half will act as the male part, which is the stamen. You can also see this on the slide. And the other half will represent the female part, which is the stigma. And we are also using yellow dots here. You can use your pen to mark many dots. And here you can see this representation symbolizes the selfing that happened, the self-pollination that happened. So the pollen from the male parts went to the female part. Okay, so this box gives you a representation of what happens when these tall plants self-pollinate. Okay, is this clear to everyone? Yeah. And Sapna, are you making that box? So do you remember what was the result when he did that? What was the, okay, Lena, I don't understand what you mean by three. You mean 3 plants? See, also remember that when we are showing this in diagrams, earlier, you remember on the earlier slides, we were also showing seeds. So the process is not as easy as it sounds, because these plants would grow, they would pollinate, and then the seed pod will get formed. And that seed pod, so Mendel was actually taking out the seeds, counting them and sowing them again, right? So once that is done, I'm asking you, what is the output going to be? Yes, and many of you are rightly saying all tall. And Lina, the 3 tall and 1 small plants, that result was not seen in this stage. So right now, he is just trying to create true breed of tall plants, true breed of plants with just one trait. And right now that trait is tallness. Okay, so he did that for many generations till he got plants, till he got seeds from tall plants that will always make tall plants. Okay, so we have pure tall plants here. And right now, if you notice, I've used more than one matchstick. So you can also do that. You can place next to the boxes you've made, you can actually now place many matchsticks over there. The number is not important right now. Yes, Srivardhan, right now self-pollination. In fact, this single box the whole rectangle that we have here, this represents the inside of the petals. You remember the pea flower, how the petals, there are petals that are completely seen. So you have your male and female parts inside the petals. So here you can actually see that in this box. So we have divided the box in two parts. So we can see the male part, stamens, and the female part, stigma. And the pollen from the male parts are coming to the stigma of the same flower. It's not a different flower. Okay, so this is self-pollination. Okay, and now, Swapnama, if you can change the slide.
Apurva, I will suggest that you do it and show. I mean, screen is not the same thing as you showing the activity.
I'll show. Okay, so stop sharing. Okay, is this yellow sheet clearly visible? Because I'm not able to see it.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so first we have taken one matchstick, right? And then I'm drawing a box to represent the reproductive parts of my flower. So in the same box, I'm using, this is the male part and this is the female part, and we know that pollens are present in the male part, right? So, and when self-pollination happens, the pollen from the male part goes to the female part, right? And when that happens, we know now that we'll get the seeds, and those seeds, when we sow them, we'll get new plants, and those plants, we know, since we are creating pure breeding plants, we'll get all tall plants. Is this part clear? We get all tall plants, right? And now what we are going to do, we are going to create, we need one more pure breeding plant of the opposite trait. So we had tallness right now, so we need a short one. So I'm going to break this matchstick in half. So now I have short, and I'm going to repeat this. It's slightly windy because of the fan. Just give me a moment. All right. So now we have the short matchstick, right? And we do the same thing again. We allow self-pollination to happen. On this matchstick. So again, the pollen from the male goes to the female, and what will be the result this time? The result this time will be more all dwarf, absolutely. So we get, I'm going to use the other half. I'm going to get all dwarf. It is very important that you actually do this yourself and make children do this, because if you notice, there are actually 3 stages to this experiment. And right now we are only creating the raw material that Mendel used for the actual experiments. Okay, so now we have pure breeding tall plants, all tall, and we have pure breeding short plants. What are we going to do next is, we are going to take one of these tall breeding plant and one short plant, okay, from my pure breeder. So now you see, I have my tall plant and my short plant, and I'm going to cross them. And when I cross them, what do I need? I need 2 boxes over here. Okay, so one box represents, let's say, the tall plant, and the other represents the short plant. Both have male and female parts, but if you remember about the cross-pollination, we have actually removed stamens from one plant. Okay, so let's say we have removed stamens from the first plant, and okay, let's remove from the short one. So this one has pollen, okay, and we have removed the stamens from the other plant. And what we were doing, these pollens we have taken and put them on the stigma of the second plant. So you see this representation I'm going to show to you.
Your voice is not clear, whoever is speaking. So,
Like
please,
this.
can you,
So is it clearly visible? Oh, I didn't hear anyone.
oh, maybe it was your voice wavering. So, now this is better.
Okay. All right. So, but this representation is clearly visible.
Apurva, probably your net is
All right.
a little shaky. And is
Okay,
it possible for you to show from top? No.
Okay, yes. What I'll do, just give me a moment. I will log in from my phone as well, and I'll show it. Just one moment. Okay. So now this should be clearly visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great.
So a couple of participants have said that it's not clear to them. So those EM Rashnas, please say what part is not clear.
Oh, I thought they were referring to the network, that the network was not clear.
So Lina S, I mean the process is clear. Lina S and EM Rashnas. They are saying okay. Okay now.
All right. So now can you suggest what's going to happen next after this representation? Now, these two boxes, they represent your crossing. So what do you think happens when we have a tall and a short plant and we have crossed them? What will be the outcome here? And I'm going to wait for your answer. I'll not proceed before I get the response from all of you. Okay. So I have one response that is all tall. What do others think about this? Okay, all tall. Another response, same response. So, Jacob, you're asking from which plant we collect the pollen. So here, let's say the first box represents the tall plant, right? So then from tall, we are collecting the pollen and sending it to the female of the short plant. But if you remember, Swapna ma'am had addressed this question even earlier, that Mendel actually did both the experiments. Okay, so he even used this other combination. We are right now showing only one, but even if you were to do the reverse combination, the results were similar. Yeah, which many of you said we'll get tall plants. So right now we are
Apurva, please use your mobile for speaking because the internet is a little unstable.
both of them are pure, all tall. So tall is there, but now we also have a pure. It started raining quite heavily, so I think just give me a minute.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. I've also okay. Stop my video. I'm facing internet issues right now. But anyways, so I was saying that it will not matter which plant are you collecting the pollen from and which you're using as the female. But at a time we are doing only one, so you can, the first box can represent the tall plant and the other one can represent the short plant. And if you remember, this time we get all tall plants. This was a huge surprise because we actually have a short plant also. But even then, whatever plants we are getting all tall plants. Okay, so this was a major surprise because some either they could have been of medium height. You know, there could have been some plants that were of medium height, but that did not happen at all. We got all tall plants. Now, in the next step, what did Mendel do? He took one of these tall plants. So this is my F1 hybrid generation.
Hello, ma'am. Can I ask a doubt?
Yes.
As we have studied, every time we say what only 4 products, that is a resultant. Here we have kept 5 matchstick. Then can a question will come why it is 5 or something like that? Usually,
Okay.
a crossing hour we have.
Okay. So see, the thing is when fertilization happens, and he did not do it only for one pair, there were many crosses of tall and short, right? So when the seeds are formed and you sow those seeds, so of course you'll get many plants from those, right? So
Okay.
so many matchsticks only represent those many plants that he got. You can use only one also, you can use 5, 10, as many as you want. But with one matchstick, sometimes children might think that this is the only outcome, right? But what we want to highlight is that entire field that he grew, after these crosses, that entire patch of land had only tall plants. So this
Okay.
shortness
Yeah.
trait, it completely disappears. So which is why we are using more than one matchstick, right?
And actually, single flower itself forms one pod which will at least have 5 peas or 6 peas. So you can even consider it like that. You will have many from a single flower.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
this is your parent generation. All right, this is your F1 hybrid. Now, what did Mendel do? He took one of these F1 hybrids. Okay, so he's taking one of these F1 hybrids. And can anyone remind me, what did we do next?
Selfing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So he made the pollen from the same flower, he allowed selfing, which is a natural process in peels. So he allowed selfing to happen. And what happens now when the seeds are formed from this selfing and he used those seeds? What was the result? Mahesh, I didn't
3:1
understand your question. Is it happening only in cross-pollination? What is happening only in cross-pollination? About the other
plants, out of 4 plants, 3 were tall and 1 is dwarf.
Absolutely right. So now, surprisingly, out of every 4 plants, 3 were tall, and then 1 plant turned out to be a short plant. And this was an absolutely surprising result. That how is it possible? But this whole thing here, it actually takes you through Mendel's entire experiment. Creation of pure breeding, tall and short. And he did that for every trait. So you can also use these matchsticks since they have a very good height element. So they are very good visual representation for the height character. But you could also use them to represent any other 2 traits. So one could be purple flower, the other could be white flowers, but it could get confusing since, cutting them short. So height was the best thing that we thought we could do with matchsticks here, right? But this is what he observed for every character. All the 7 characters that he observed on pea plants, these were exactly the same results. In fact, the experiment also, since the beginning, he creates pure breeding plants of 2 contrasting traits. Then he crosses them. In the 3rd step, he crosses them and realizes that only 1 trait is being passed on. The other trait somehow disappears, right? And when he takes one of these matchsticks and allows them to self again, then somehow this trait that had disappeared in the 3rd row, it appears back.
Apurva, you can write F2 hybrid.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So this here is the F2 generation.
And Mahesh, we will allow you to unmute. Please ask your question. I think he has some genuine question here, which we have not been able to address. So Mahesh, can you please
Sure.
ask?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Mahesh, we can hear you.
Just asking you, you have told about one plant is tall and the next one is dwarf, right?
If one is tall and the other is dwarf.
Yeah.
So if they are crossed, then what happens?
Yeah. Is it cross-pollination?
Yes. So he's actually mixing traits only in this stage, right? So he has taken 1 tall plant and 1 short plant, and now he's crossing them. Okay, so the pollen from 1 flower actually goes on the stigma on the female of the other flower.
Right.
Okay, and then whatever seeds that are formed, when he sowed those seeds, the result was that he got all tall plants.
Okay, my question is it happening only in cross-pollination?
That he's getting all tall plants?
Is it happening? Yeah.
Yes, this is happening during cross-pollination. But if you remember, even when selfing was happening, right? When he was creating the pure breed, even then tall selfing were giving you only tall plants.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the doubt is coming from selfing. So actually, I mean, once we go through how genes and I mean, how this happens or why this happens, probably there will be a better idea. But at least in selfing stage, we have to understand that he only chose those plants which were tall through many generations. If any short ones appeared between the tall ones, he would discard them or remove them. So when he was creating these pure breeds, he would pick up the tall ones and then sow them again, then again pick up the tall ones, sow them again. So actually he ensured that he had seeds which will always give tall. If any short ones appeared, he just removed them. Similarly for short, he would sow them and remove all tall ones, sow them again and again and again, and ensure that pure breeds means if anything mixed came up, it was removed, it was discarded. Because when you understand the genetics of it, you will see that sometimes in the first stage, you will have a mixed outcome. But that mixed outcome had to be selected. I mean, like in the selfing stage, the first two stages, the selfing stage, if amongst the tall plants, if there was any short, he would remove it. So is that clear? To create pure breeds, he had to remove the contrasting trait and do it for many generations. Am I making it myself clear?
That was actually one of the reasons for his success, that he started with pure varieties.
Mahesh, is this clear to you now?
So now EM.
Yeah, it's clear.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I was actually going to that question.
Okay.
That
It's
why
clear,
all?
ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mahesh. So another interesting question has come up.
Thank you, ma'am.
Why all dwarf and why not all? Why all tall and not all dwarf? So very interesting question, and it also it naturally comes, right, that why are we seeing this result? It could also have been the other way around. We could have had all short also, or it could have been a mix even here, but that did not happen. So this is exactly what we are going to talk about in tomorrow's session, that how is all of this happening? This is what we are able to see, what we are able to the visible characters of the visible traits, right? That some are tall, some are short, some are purple, some are white, but then when you cross them, all will be purple. And when you're doing it with the seeds, you're getting only one type of seeds. So this is what one of the slides was also highlighting, that every time you do this crossing for different traits, you get only one type of result. And why that is happening is something that we are going to explore in tomorrow's session in detail. And this was a big task even for Mendel to do. And he also made a lot of iterations, had a lot of assumptions. But then he became so successful, although many years later, because he was able to highlight the exact reason that why this is happening. Yes, of course, you can ask one question.
Okay, good morning, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, madam. In the last stage, we got that while the self-pollination, we got a 3:1 in ratio, isn't it?
Yes.
See, if we present this one in front of the students, there's a chance of doubt. Like if a parents like this, suppose tall, here is a self-pollination, that means both are tall. Tall parents, father and mother, tall father and tall mother, they have 4 offspring, children. If they have, suppose they have 4 children, one should be dwarf according to this experiment, isn't it? But it's not happening naturally in our cases. In case of human being, I'm telling about the human cases.
Yes.
Both are tall parents and they have 4 children. There's a chance of 2 dwarf and 2 taller children. But
Yeah.
in this experiment, while we explain this experiment in front of the students, there's a chance of such a doubt. How can we clear it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is very good if children ask this question. So, see, the thing is with humans, if you remember the very beginning of the story, we had spoken about that there are many distinguishing characters in a pea plant, but these 7 ones that Mendel chose, they only have 2 traits. So, height will only have 2 options, tall or short. Flower color will have only 2 options, purple or white. There is nothing in the middle or no third option. There is no green color flower or blue color flower that you get. You will either get purple or you will get white. In terms of seeds, you will either have round seeds or you will have wrinkled seed. There is no middle path or there is no any other option that exists. When it comes to humans, especially human height, now that is a character that does not have two traits, right? It can have a lot of traits, which is why, if you remember, and I think Swapna ma'am will be able to explain this even better, that sometimes there is even blending of traits that happens. In fact, Swapna ma'am, do you want to take this up? Because I think by the end of tomorrow's session, this question will be much, much more clear when we get into how all of this is happening. So there is a hidden, right now we have not gone inside these plants to see what is happening there at a cellular level, what is happening. Okay, so once we talk about that, I think you will be able to answer that question even yourself.
Yeah, and tomorrow we will also be talking about the pea height of pea plants and height of human beings is a very different kind of character you are looking at. So as Apurva also said, human height, there is nothing like just you are either very short or very tall. There is a range of heights. So figuring out inheritance of such a character in case of humans is very, very complex. And it will, that's why I said that there are exceptions to 3:1 ratio. And we will talk about that tomorrow. Once we understand the mechanism of 3:1 ratio, then we will address when it is not 3:1, why it is not 3:1. So human height, that's why he was successful, because he went with a simpler, very clean system. Human height is a very complex issue. Okay, so we will take it up tomorrow. Any other question?
Swapna ma'am, I'm also wondering if you want to give that task of, them collecting data about human traits. Do you want to do that? We still have some time.
Okay.
In case, if you feel it's okay, otherwise
we can. So since we have here we were just talking a little bit about human characters. Now, some of you might wonder, or definitely students will wonder, that Mendel worked on peas, but are there any traits or characters in humans which we can just simply see and analyze, right? So there are many such traits that one can analyze in the class or at home. So one of these traits is rolling your tongue like this. So
Swapna ma'am, slide sharing is stopped right now.
Madam, may I ask one more thing?
Yes.
See, I stopped there. In the case of human beings, there is a possibility of not only in the 3:1 or 2:2, maybe like that. But here, in my case, I explain for the students, while born as first child, there is a chance of 3:1. Like that, I am explain to students. That means 75% that child may be a chance to be a taller child, or 25% that child shall be a dwarf one. Is it a correct explanation?
No, really, because see, the thing is, we are in case of human height, actually height is not simply determined by one thing, one factor. Okay, so first of all, we know that there are range of heights. One person can be anywhere between 3 feet tall to maybe 8 feet tall. So we have a range of actually heights possible. That is because there are too many factors involved and it's not just inherited. So you may have tall parents, but you may not become as tall as them, or you may become taller than your parents. You will see that many times. Because in case of height, there are a lot of genetic factors and there are a lot of environmental factors also. What kind of diet you have, what kind of, that's why we ask children to do so many exercises to increase their height. So there is some role of environment in many characters, especially in case of complex characters. So there is a role of environment, there is a role of what your genetic contribution is coming from your parents. So that's why in case of human height, it is very, very difficult to say. And we will talk more about it here. But once we talk about mechanism, what Mendel explained, then it will become clearer. Okay, so it's not a single factor. It is not just what your parents give you, it is also about what kind of diet you have, what kind of exercise you have. You may not grow to your full height simply because of your environment and diet. So it's not
it's
just
better to don't compare the human and the plants hybridization, isn't it?
No, you can't compare it directly. Yes.
Okay.
And we will talk more about it why tomorrow.
Okay.
So 2 features that I want you to notice in you, in your family, in your friends. Can you all see my screen now?
Sorry, madam.
Can you?
No,
Can
Swapna
everyone?
ma'am.
No, we can't.
Can you now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So these are some simple traits, just like we had flower color or height in case of pea plants. Simpler and easier to analyze traits in humans. There are many. I will show you 2, and I want you to look at your family members, friends, and maybe tell me tomorrow what do you see. So this is rolling your tongue like this. So this is a very simple character one can check, and you can do it. All of you can do it now and tell me how many of you can do it or not. And please make sure your family and friends and your students do this. And this is one character. Tomorrow we can discuss how many members of your in your family can do this or cannot do this. This is one character. This is called as tongue rolling. Second is again simple observation, that is earlobes. You would have noticed that earlobes come in only. So these are characters in case of humans which are like Mendel's, that there are only 2 possibilities. So earlobe can be attached or it can be free. So again, this is a character one can very simply observe. And so I would really be very happy if you go ahead and notice and tell me tomorrow how many of your family members or friends have either a free earlobe or a attached earlobe. Okay, there's another character which is normally done in schools. They give you a bitter chemical to test. So either you can taste it or you don't taste it. So that is another, but that we can't do it online. And so again, here I am not pointing out some simpler characters which normally come to our mind, like color of hair, color of eyes. So it is like in case of human height, these are difficult to analyze. These are complex traits. Why we will talk about tomorrow. And another some very easily feature which you might have seen is having an extra digit on your hand or feet. This is also a rare character, but you can see it in some individuals. So notice these kind of characters and we will discuss them tomorrow. Okay. So we will talk why we are not talking about eye color or hair color or height as simple traits as in pea plant. So we will compare and contrast pea and humans tomorrow. Okay. So please go ahead and give me your data. How many people in your family have free or attached earlobes and how many can roll the tongue or not? Has anybody tried it just now and you can tell me?
Yes, many responses on the chat.
Okay.
A lot of people who can do it.
Okay. Nobody who cannot do it? In our group, actually, we have more people who cannot do it.
Yeah.
Mahesh is saying he and his son are same. Very good. So Very interesting to know.
And also, this is not a skill that you can learn.
Yeah. Yeah, Sheena cannot do it. So we at least have one person who can't do it. Srivardhan says me and his daughter can do it or cannot do it. So also take a mirror after our session today and see what kind of earlobes you have. Okay, interesting. So explore, and now maybe it will become a habit for you, as it did for me for some time, that every time I met a new person, I would make it a point to notice their earlobes. So, and let me tell you, it doesn't have a significant impact whether you can roll your tongue or not. It's just an interesting and simpler observation one can use for genetic analysis. Okay, so maybe we can stop here now unless anyone has a question about what we talked about today, and then we can take it forward tomorrow.
Any questions that you would like to ask?
This I didn't understand Galaxy's response.
No, they're sending their names for.
Okay,
the
okay. Okay.
So if there aren't any questions and if you are ending the session here today, one request to all of you is that tomorrow when you come, of course you have to get a box of math. You have to get a matchbox with matchsticks in it, but alongside also get bindis. So 2 different colors, so black and red, or any 2 colors will work. So if you can also get a pack of small bindis of 2 colors, that will help.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll take a minute in noting down the names which have come. We'll take names tomorrow again. So, I mean, if some people give us their names clearly, then we can prepare online certificates and give, I mean, only soft copies. I'll stop YouTube.
I think there is an option of downloading the chat also.
I can't do it. Can you do it?
I'm not able to see. I thought maybe you're the host, so you can download.
I can't do it.
जब तक कोई रिकॉर्ड वैसे सिस्टम पे रिकॉर्ड नहीं करेगा तब तक उसको नहीं कर सकता डाउनलोड.
Maybe we can take screenshots.
I have taken down names and we'll collect names tomorrow again, but I don't know.
They can write.
वो लोग ग्रुप पे WhatsApp ग्रुप पे अपना नाम भेज सकते हैं ना.
Only admins can message.
नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
अच्छा,
निकाल दे.
No,
वो लोग
we can allow others to write, but the trouble is that people who haven't attended will also write their names. I mean, this is the problem with such kind of meetings, which is that's why I personally don't like giving certificates, because people attend for the sake of certificates instead of genuine learning, which is a very poor practice in our system. And during COVID lockdowns, this happened a lot, and people would just come to meetings only for getting the certificate. Actually, I would prefer not to give a certificate. Swapna ma'am, can you stop sharing?
Yeah.
Friends, we are trying very hard that teachers and children who are genuinely interested in learning should come and attend our sessions. Certificate means nothing if the session doesn't help you in some way, or you find it interesting, or you learn something new. Otherwise, what's the point of a certificate? So actually, we have stopped giving in online classes because attendance is very hard to judge. And some people come only for a minute, some people may not come at all, some people register and do not come, some people drop out in between. So that's why I think giving certificates is a very poor practice in online education. So actually, we do not want this to happen. But if you insist, we can give. But I'll just taking down names. But it's possible that somebody is missed, and then they'll be unhappy. So that's why. And if we allow it on WhatsApp, some people who have not come to the session will give their names. So that kind of honesty is also not there in our system. So Mahesh is asking introduction. Mahesh, from whom?
I'm from Kerala, in Thrissur district.
No. You said like introduce yourself. So I don't know who you were asking. So
Okay.
we gave our introduction in the beginning. So anyway, I think we should stop for today. And there's a separate link for tomorrow, which we'll paste on the WhatsApp group. And I don't know why it's happened. Some people are writing to me that they are unable to join. They said wrong password, but like everyone joined here with the same link. So I don't know why it has happened. But maybe some more people can be helped to join tomorrow. But then if they haven't attended today's session, then they'll have a problem. I don't know what to do about that.
The password is case sensitive. Some people don't understand that.
Okay.
M caps वाला ये problem पहले भी आ चुकी है मेरे को. So maybe they are thinking they must be typing without being case sensitive about it.
Possible.
So sending link separately tomorrow will have not a capitalized password.
Yeah. So, but then some people may type it with capital.
You can write it as case sensitive, just one line and underneath that.
Maybe if that is the problem, I don't know what is the problem. But anyway, so I'll stop for today, and we'll see everyone tomorrow. And we'll allow people to write on the WhatsApp group. So if you have any comments, suggestion, or questions, feel free to write on the WhatsApp group. All right. Yes, you can leave the class, and I'm also ending. So bye for now, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.